In the Philippines, President Rodrigo Duterte has declared a war on drugs that's left more than 12,000 people dead. But they're not the only victims. Tens of thousands of people are languishing in jail as courts struggle to process a record number of drug arrests.
I thought, where am I? Why am I here? I shouldn't be here. What is this place?
I'm Steve Chow. On this episode of 101 East, we investigate the shocking conditions inside the world's most congested jails and the inmates trying to survive them.
It's early in the morning and a full moon is rising. In the shadows lie thousands of bodies wedged into every corner of every inch. Welcome to Manila City Jail, one of the most congested prisons in the world. We've been given extended access here to find out why jails in the Philippines are so overcrowded and to meet the inmates who've been called monsters by their own government.
So tell me about the jail, Mr. Bustinera.
So we are in the south sector of the jail.
J. Rex Bustinera is the jail's chief records officer. Even he is shocked by the conditions here.
Right now, based on the United Nations minimum standard, our ideal capacity should be around 1,100 inmates. But the actual jail population right now is up to 6,300 inmates.
That's almost 600% over capacity.
We should be scared, because we can be outnumbered anytime.
And that's not an exaggeration. According to international standards, there should be one guard for every 7 prisoners. The ratio here is 1 to about 200. To cope, officials have adopted some unusual solutions.
I think the most unique is when we use the inmates to police other inmates. They elect their own leaders, and then we delegate some of our authority to their leaders. They act as marshals. They help us institute peace and order here.
Bustinera admits that jails here have always been crowded, but it has reached unprecedented levels since President Rodrigo Duterte announced his war on drugs 2 years ago.
Our jail population has increased by 50% since 2016, where the time where he took office.
50%?
Yeah, 50%.
In the slums of Manila, this war has become infamous for the extrajudicial killing of thousands of drug suspects. Rights groups accuse the police of being involved. But look beyond the bloodshed, and you find tens of thousands of people who are incarcerated indefinitely after being arrested for drug crimes. To see this campaign in action, we joined the Drug Enforcement Agency on an operation to bust a suspected dealer. In a Manila parking lot, undercover agents are waiting in this car to buy crystal meth or shabu from the suspect.
Sir, pumasok na, sir. Alerto pa rin na baka may bakal yung mukha mo. Yung blind.
It's a tense wait as agents negotiate the deal.
So we are still waiting for the pre-arranged signal. The driver of the car will push the hazard button.
Suddenly, the lights flash, and the agents move in to make the arrest. They seize just under half a kilo of shabu, with a street value of about $60,000.
How much jail time is he looking at?
If he will be convicted, ma'am, he will suffer a maximum of life imprisonment.
The operation is a success, but our investigation suggests that not all drug arrests are this clean. Since 2016, almost 160,000 people have been arrested in the anti-narcotics campaign. Guilty or not, they go straight to prisons like Manila City Jail.
Jails in the Philippines were built to hold around 20,000 people, but today they're housing more than 140,000. Most of these people haven't even been convicted of a crime. They're still waiting for verdicts in their cases.
One of the inmates stuck in this limbo is Guillermo Busano. He's already spent more than 2 years here waiting for a verdict in his drug case. We meet him as he's heading to yet another court hearing.
The first time I set foot inside here, I felt like I was being choked. I thought, where am I? Why am I here? I shouldn't be here. What is this place? Suddenly, I found myself crying. I was so scared.
Guillermo was charged with Section 5 and 11, possession and dealing drugs. The police report that he was busted with 0.24 grams of shabu. But Guillermo says he was set up by a crooked cop during a drug operation in his neighborhood.
One policeman shouted, "Arrest him, he has a gun." I was like, wait, I don't have a gun. When they didn't find anything, the same policeman said, "I'm going to charge you with 511, a much more serious crime."
Guillermo says the officers planted evidence against him at the police station.
On the table, there was already the evidence, and they told me to point at it so they can take a photo. But I refused. I said, "That's not mine. Why do I have to point at that?" They told me, "Do you want us to kill you? We should have killed you a while ago." They asked me, "How much can you give?" I said, "What do you mean?" They said, "Just give us $2,000. You can bail yourself out." I told them, "I don't have any money. I'm poor."
I have to admit, I was skeptical of Guillermo's story. Almost everyone in jail says they're innocent. But he says he has no reason to lie. He's already pled guilty to the charges.
Even if you didn't do anything, you have to admit to it, just so you can plea bargain to be released earlier. We have to bite the bullet. We don't have a choice. We're doing this for the sake of our family.
There is no bail for drug offences. If Guillermo fought the charges, he could spend years in prison just waiting for a verdict. By pleading guilty, he got a reduced sentence that technically he's already served.
Makalaya na sana ako. Mabigyan sana kami ng motion for immediate release.
After a long wait, it's finally Guillermo's turn to appear before the judge. But within minutes, he's back out in the hallway. The judge did not grant his release. He still has to have a mandatory drug test to determine if he's an addict, and that could take months. Guillermo is devastated. He was sure he was going home to his family.
Akala lang nila matibay ako. Yun lang akala nila. Akala lang nila malakas pa ako. Hindi, masakit, mabigat na rin. Lalo na ngayon, narating ang birthday ko. Sana. Sana lang. Kasi nga ayaw ko nga sila makita lang sa loob na birthday mo. Batiin ka. Ayoko. mas masakit sa akin yung baka magbigti na ako.
Guillermo's not the only one having a rough day at the court.
How many people here are here for drugs cases? Raise your hand. Most people, okay. And how many people here had their hearings cancelled or postponed? Raise your hands. Okay. So all of these people had hearings scheduled, but as you can see, a lot of them never got to come before a judge.
Every time a hearing is postponed, it prolongs the trial, adding months to an inmate's incarceration. The courts are so overstretched that this happens all the time, leaving people stranded behind bars for years. It's enough to push some to suicide. At the jail, inmates have set up a support group to help each other cope.
Good morning, family. Good morning! 6 months lang ang sentensya ko. Umabot na po ako sa 1 year, 6 months. So,
like most of the prisoners, many here were arrested for drugs.
Pagmuli po sa akin, baling lang po. Wala naman. Parang planted lang po. Natutulog lang po kasi ako sa bangketa.
Mula sa Ebanghelyo ni San Juan.
These sessions are led by 58-year-old Rogelio Reyes. He's one of the prison's longest-serving inmates, with his trial dragging on now for more than 14 years. Hope, he says, is what's kept him alive.
Patuloy na magdasal, patuloy na magkaroon ng pag-asa, makakapiling din natin ang ating pamilya. Sa gitna man ng kalungkutan, sa gitna man ng mga paghihirap dito sa loob ng kulungan, may pag-asa pa rin.
Rogelio was a decorated public servant working for the Manila City Council. But in 2004, he was charged with falsifying public documents and embezzling money, charges he says were politically motivated.
What shall we do? Ma'am, we are very helpless here in the jail. What shall we do? Our hand were handcuffed.
Have you ever been convicted of a crime?
No conviction, no conviction. Most of the cases are acquitted. Ma'am, I really have evidence.
Rogelio has been acquitted of over 20 cases, but he still has more than 50 pending. Today, he's meeting a jail paralegal to find out if his hearings can be fast-tracked.
Sabi ko, akala ko noon, I will only be here about 2 years, ganyan. Ihinto ko sa pagbilang yung number of hearings ko, ma'am. I stop at 200 hearings. Pero ma'am, ang totoo dun sa 200 hearings na yun, ang mga natuloy, ma'am, more than 20 lang.
At this rate, he could die in jail before the court gets through all his cases.
You have spent more than 14 years in jail. Are you not angry or bitter about being forced to stay here?
If you are angry, you will not survive. I have to adapt. Or else, maybe I will be out of my mind. I do not want that to happen to me because I still have my family. For my family, I have to survive. Okay. Ay, ma'am, thank you po, ma'am.
Sige po.
Ma'am, matatapos na rin to. I hope.
All the officer can do is fill out a complaint form for Rogelio. But if he's disappointed, he doesn't show it. He says today he wants to forget his problems. It's Prison Awareness Week, and everyone else in the jail is in a good mood. There are costume parties and dance competitions. And Rogelio is leading the charge in Zumba. Families have also come to watch the festivities. They're allowed in here 6 days a week. Wives even get conjugal visits, and children get to spend time with their fathers. Many inmates tell me that this is the only thing that keeps them sane.
If people don't have visitors, they get depressed here. They start thinking too much. They always wonder why they don't have any visitors.
But Guillermo doesn't allow his children to visit. He can't bear for them to see him behind bars.
Hello, Be. Okay lang. Kasama na.
Pa! Hindi na kami.
Ha? Alis mo na kami?
Apo.
Ilag mo ako?
Apo.
Guillermo says that even though he can't be with his children, he tries to be a good father, but it's not easy.
Dadalang ka namin. Ng pera.
Padala mo pera?
Oo.
May trabaho wala?
Oo. Pagdakay ko.
Oo, sige. Responsible ng bilang isang ama.
This is my responsibility as a father.
Kasi ako, ma'am, di ko
I never experienced my father's love.
Hindi ko naramdaman yung pagmamahal.
Never felt his love.
Hindi ko naramdaman. Pinamulat ko sa sarili ko.
I promised myself,
Pag nagkaanak ako,
when I have kids, I will never let them experience what my father did to me.
Apo.
Alam ko yun. Sige, bye-bye na. Ingat ka dyan. Bye-bye, love you, bye-bye. Wala na si Papa.
Outside Dorm 7, Rogelio has a visitor, his youngest daughter. Rogelio asks us to conceal her identity. He doesn't want her to be stigmatized because of his imprisonment.
27 ka na ba? Akala ko 22 ka lang.
27.
13 ka na mapasok ako rito.
Rogelio was a father of 5 when he was sent to jail. Now they have kids of their own.
Yun, yung apo mo, makulit na.
Sa Asia, ganun kalaki na.
Laki na. 15 years old na siya.
But despite everything, Rogelio says he's grateful.
In spite of my many years here in the jail, the family is still intact. My wife is a very, very good person, Ma'am. She is playing the role of both the mother and the father to our children, Ma'am. And now they are all grown up.
It's been a good day for Rogelio, but time has passed too quickly.
Kailan ka nadalan?
Next Sunday.
Sunday ka na ulit. Sigurado ka, baka mamaya ano na naman, ha? O kiss mo ko sa mami. Kiss mo ko sa mami, ha? Pag ganun tatawag ako, ha?
As much as he loves seeing his family, Rogelio says it's unbearable watching them leave. Guillermo is also having a tough night after spending the day watching other fathers spend time with their children.
My kids are my strength. That's why I'm trying to be strong for them.
He prays for them every night. He says he can never forgive the police for separating him from his family.
Serve and protect.
Their motto is to serve and protect, but the reality is they only serve and protect themselves.
Again and again, inmates told me disturbing stories about police misconduct, allegations of torture, extortion, and the planting of evidence. But they didn't have proof. Then I came across a chilling story. In April last year, a team of journalists and human rights activists raided a police station in Manila after receiving a tip-off. What they found inside was shocking. Behind this bookshelf, they uncovered a windowless secret cell hiding 12 terrified people. They were detained as drug suspects, but none of them had been charged with a crime. In fact, the station had no record of them at all.
Isang linggo na pala, pinapatubos kayo. Magkano?
The detainees said their cell had no water or functioning toilet. They were defecating in plastic bags. They said police had tortured them and demanded money for their release.
Paano kang pinaplastic ang mukha? Paano kinokuryente? Paano kinokuryente ng ano? Ha? Na paano yan? Na paano yan? Anong pinampalo sa ulo mo? Ha?
The commander of the station denied the allegations. He said they'd simply run out of space in their holding cell.
Bakit nyo tinago? Ano ba parang pinilagay? Anong reason natin? Bakit nyo itatago? Investigation pa yan. Bakit naman siya bibitawan? Hindi yan local yan. Ang local detention. Isang aligasyon na lang ngayon na 1 week, sir. Isang aligasyon na lang ngayon, sir. Yung words against our words, sir.
In the 18 months since the raid, none of the officers from the station have been fired. Meanwhile, the detainees have been forced into hiding. We tracked down one of the men who was in that cell.
When we arrived, they just punched me and told me to confess to having drugs. But they weren't mine. They didn't find anything on me.
This former detainee has been in hiding for months, terrified of police retribution. He says he spent 9 days in that cell while police tried to force a confession.
After my arrest, they wouldn't stop beating me. Every night, they would bring me out of the cell and say, "Let's kill this guy in a drug operation." I was bleeding, sweating. I even urinated.
Did you think it was strange that the police were locking you up in this hidden cell?
They put us in that cell so they could extort money from us. That's the truth. I was told I'd be released if I gave them about $1,000. But if none of us could pay, they would charge us with Section 511.
We tried to put these allegations to the Philippine National Police. They would not talk to us. But activists say that police misconduct is endemic, with impoverished and innocent people routinely arrested. It's an experience that Guillermo Bassano says he's had firsthand.
Out of 100%, I only have 5% faith in the police. So many of my neighbors are in jail with me. Our whole community is here.
Guillermo says the police and the law have failed him. Even after pleading guilty and serving the sentence for a crime he says he didn't commit, he's still stuck in prison. Today, he's finally getting his court-ordered drug test. He needs a clean urine sample and the green light from a doctor before he can be released.
Yung huling batak mo, 2004?
Matagal lang po talaga panahon. Napakatagal na panahon.
Ilang taon ka na nakakulong?
2 years, 4 months.
Anong sinintensya sa'yo dito?
Ano po, 1 year, 6 months.
Dr. Jose Juan Baranda has been working in drug rehabilitation for 30 years.
What was your assessment of Mr. Bassano?
I categorized him as a non-drug user. He's not using drugs anymore, and therefore, there is no intervention on our part to do.
In your experience, do a lot of people who are not using drugs admit to using drugs just to get out of jail?
There are people who admit to a lesser offense just to be able to get out of jail.
Ito at kantungan ng palataya ko sa Diyos na pang sa lahat, na may gawa ng langit at lupa.
Guillermo says he has lost faith in justice. Now he can only turn to God and the President.
Mr. President,
Mr. President, not everyone who is in jail is a demon. Not everyone is a bad person. We are human beings, like you.
After more than 14 years, Rogelio is also desperately trying to hold on to his faith. He still believes that one day he will be free.
I still want that my life had a purpose, that my existence had a purpose. I am praying ardently that I shall be out of this jail eventually.